Now let's talk about fish for many of us. It's been a go-to protein for decades. It's light, easy to digest, and often praised for being heart healthy. Especially as we get older, it's comforting to know that certain foods can support our memory, our joints, and our longevity. But here's the surprising truth: not all fish are as safe or as healthy as we've been led to believe in. Fact: some types of fish can quietly harm our brain, our heart, and even accelerate aging. That's especially true after the age of 60, when our bodies become more sensitive to certain environmental toxins like mercury, plastic residues, and inflammatory compounds. And unfortunately, these harmful substances are hiding in some of the most common fish on grocery store shelves and restaurant menus. So in today's episode, we're going to walk through 7 kinds of fish that older adults should seriously think twice about eating. These fish may look harmless on the plate, but many of them contain heavy metals, dangerous chemicals, and inflammatory fats that can increase your risk of memory loss, joint pain, high blood pressure, and more. Now, I want you to know this isn't about fear, it's about wisdom, because when we understand what we're putting in our bodies, we can make choices that truly support long-term health, energy, and mental clarity. And by the end of this video, you'll not only know which 7 fish to avoid, but you'll also be better equipped to shop smarter, eat better, and protect your well-being one meal at a time. Let's get started. 1. Eel. Eel might seem like a fancy treat. It's often served grilled, or in sushi. It has a soft, rich texture and a unique flavor. But beneath that appealing surface, eel carries a hidden health risk, especially for older adults. The first thing you need to know is that eel is a bottom-dwelling fish, which means it lives close to the floor of rivers, lakes, and oceans. These areas are where pollutants settle, everything from industrial waste and heavy metals to toxic dyes. Over time, eel absorbs these toxins into its body, and unlike some fish, it doesn't flush them out. They stay, and eventually we eat them. In a 2024 European study, researchers found that eels from over 70% of tested water sources contain textile dyes and plastic chemicals. These compounds have been linked to liver damage, hormonal imbalance, and even cancer risk. And the scariest part: these toxins can be removed by cooking. Another major concern is cadmium, a heavy metal found in eels from polluted waters. Cadmium can weaken bones, damage kidneys, and may increase your risk of developing osteoporosis, especially dangerous for people over 60. You might wonder if farmed eel is safer. Unfortunately, the answer is no. Farmed eel is often raised in crowded tanks, fed unnatural diets, and still exposed to many of the same contaminants. And unlike other fish, eels don't breed easily in captivity. Most are captured in the wild and raised in conditions that are neither clean nor sustainable. Even beyond health risks, eating eel also affects the environment. Many eel species are endangered, including the European eel. Overfishing and habitat destruction have made them one of the most threatened fish in the world. So here's the bottom line: eel is high in toxins and low in nutritional value. It can contribute to inflammation, bone loss, and kidney issues. It's an unsustainable choice that harms marine ecosystems. As we age, our bodies become more sensitive to toxins, and our recovery takes longer. That's why choosing the right fish and avoiding the wrong ones matters more than ever. 2. Tilefish. Tilefish isn't as well known as tuna or salmon, but it's often found in restaurant dishes and even sold in grocery stores under less familiar names. It's a firm white fish with a mild flavor. To the average shopper, it might look like a healthy choice, but when it comes to mercury contamination, tilefish ranks among the worst of the worst. So, what makes tilefish so dangerous? Tilefish are predatory fish that live deep in the ocean and grow slowly over many years. This means they have plenty of time to absorb mercury from their environment, and because they're near the top of the food chain, they're not just absorbing it directly from the water. They're also eating smaller fish that have mercury in them. Over time, mercury builds up inside their bodies in a process called bioaccumulation. The mercury levels in tilefish are so high that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration FDA recommends completely avoiding tileish if you are pregnant, nursing, or a young child. But here's something we don't talk about enough. Mercury doesn't only affect young people. It's also extremely harmful that for older adults and adults over 60, mercury can have subtle but serious effects. It can damage nerves, kidneys, and blood vessels. It's also been linked to memory problems, slower thinking, mood changes, and even an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. And here's something important to consider: our bodies become less efficient at detoxifying as we age. So when a younger adult might process out a small amount of mercury, someone in their 60s or 70s may store it for much longer and feel the effects more deeply. Another concern is that tilefish often comes from the Gulf of Mexico, which has been the site of oil spills, industrial dumping, and agricultural runoff. All of this means even higher potential for contamination, not just mercury, but arsenic and other heavy metals too. To make matters worse, tilefish isn't always labeled clearly. It can be sold under general names like whitefish or grouper, especially in frozen products or prepared meals. That's why it's so important to ask questions when buying fish, especially when shopping at fish counters or ordering in restaurants. Let's quickly recap why tilefish is a fish to avoid: very high mercury levels that can damage the brain, kidneys, and heart, risk of cognitive decline and memory issues in older adults, often sourced from polluted waters like the Gulf of Mexico, may be mislabeled or sold under generic names. Bioaccumulates toxins, making even small portions risky. You might not eat tilefish often or even recognize it by name, but that's exactly why it's dangerous. It hides in plain sight. And if you're eating white fish dishes in restaurants or buying frozen seafood that's not clearly labeled, there's a chance you've had it without knowing. So what should you do? Start by reading labels carefully. If a fish product doesn't name the exact species, don't assume it's safe. When eating out, don't be shy. Ask your server what kind of fish is being used, and if they don't know, it's okay to choose something else. Your health is worth it. As we get older, we don't need to fear food. We just need to be smarter about it. By avoiding fish like tilefish, we reduce our exposure to toxins that can silently wear down our minds and bodies. 3. King mackerel. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, I thought mackerel was healthy. And you're right. Some mackerel is very good for you, like Atlantic or Acca mackerel, but king mackerel is in a different category entirely, and for older adults, it's a fish best left off the plate. So what's the problem with king mackerel? The issue is mercury again, and in the case of king mackerel, the mercury levels are extremely high. This fish is a top predator, which means it feeds on other fish that have already accumulated mercury. Every meal the king mackerel eats adds to the load, and over the years, it builds up dangerous levels of this neurotoxic metal. Here's why that matters. Mercury directly affects the brain and nervous system. For people over 60, that's especially concerning. Research has linked high mercury exposure to memory loss, confusion, difficulty focusing, and even increased risk of dementia. It's also been associated with tremors, sleep disturbances, and mood swing symptoms that are often mistaken for just getting older, but may actually be related to diet. Beyond brain health, mercury can also stress your kidneys, cardiovascular system, and even weaken your immune response, something many older adults are already monitoring closely. In fact, in a 2024 study from the University of California, researchers found that older adults with frequent intake of high mercury fish, including king mackerel, showed accelerated cognitive aging compared to those who ate lower mercury options. The difference, nearly 5 years of Mental sharpness lost king mackerel also contains PCBs or polychlorinated, biphenyls industrial chemicals that, although banned for decades, still remain in the ocean and accumulate in fatty fish. PCBs are considered probable human carcinogens and may disrupt hormones in both men and women. To make matters more confusing, king mackerel is often just labeled as mackerel on menus or at fish counters. That's why it's so important to ask for the specific variety. If it's not labeled as Atlantic or Acca, it's best to skip it. So to recap, here's why king mackerel is a fish to avoid: very high in mercury, which damages brain, kidney, and heart function, linked to memory problems, mood changes, and early cognitive decline. Often contains PCBs, which may increase cancer and hormonal risks. Easily confused with healthier types of mackerel, especially risky for older adults due to slower detox function. As always, this isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Choosing the right type of fish means protecting your long-term clarity, independence, and vitality. It's about stacking the odds in your favor as you age. So next time you see mackerel on the menu, be curious, ask where it's from, and if it's king mackerel, politely say no and choose a better option. For swordfish, swordfish has long been seen as a premium seafood option. It's thick, meaty, and often grilled like a steak. For many people, it feels like a healthier alternative to red meat, but behind the firm texture and savory flavor lies one of the most mercury-laden fish in the ocean, and that's something older adults need to take very seriously. Swordfish, like king mackerel, is a top predator. It spends years swimming through polluted waters and eating smaller fish that have already absorbed mercury and other heavy metals. By the time a swordfish is caught and served, its body has become a concentrated storage unit for toxins, especially methyl mercury, the most dangerous form of mercury for human health. So why is this a problem after age 60? As we age, our bodies naturally become more vulnerable to heavy metal exposure. Our livers process slower, our kidneys filter less efficiently, and our brains, they become more sensitive to inflammation, oxidative stress, and anything that interferes with communication between cells. Mercury, especially in the amounts found in swordfish, can interfere with memory, focus, balance, and emotional stability. You might experience forgetfulness, irritability, or mental fog that's hard to explain. And in some cases, mercury might be a hidden factor. In a study published in the Journal of Environmental Health in late 2023, seniors who regularly consumed high mercury fish like swordfish were twice as likely to show early signs of cognitive decline, even if they had no family history of dementia. Some also reported higher rates of anxiety and disrupted sleep. And it's not just the brain. Mercury also affects the heart. It increases the risk of arrhythmias, elevated blood pressure, and arterial inflammation, all major concerns for older adults. Try to protect their cardiovascular health beyond mercury. Swordfish can also contain traces of dioxins and other industrial chemicals, especially in fish caught from certain parts of the Pacific and Mediterranean. These toxins may increase cancer risk and impair the immune system, again, quietly and slowly over time. So what's the solution? The easiest approach is to simply avoid swordfish altogether, especially if you're over 60 or have any heart, kidney, or cognitive conditions. And if you're eating out and see swordfish on the menu, feel empowered to ask what other fish options are available. There are safer, healthier choices that don't carry these same long-term risks. Let's recap why swordfish is a fish to avoid: extremely high in methylmercury, which affects the brain and nervous system, linked to memory loss, confusion, and mood issues in older adults, may contribute to heart arrhythmias, and high blood pressure often contains other pollutants like dioxins. Risks are greater with age due to slower detox and recovery processes. Choosing to avoid swordfish isn't about giving up a treat, it's about protecting your clarity, your mood, and your energy, and it's about honoring the stage of life you're in by giving your body the support it deserves. 5. Orange. Roughy, this fish is one of the most toxic choices you can put on your plate. Orange. Roughy can live to be over 150 years old. That's right, 150, but that impressive lifespan is exactly what makes this fish so dangerous. The longer a fish lives, the more time it has to absorb pollutants from the environment. And orange roughy doesn't just absorb a little, it soaks up mercury, lead, arsenic, and cadmium slowly, storing them deep in its tissues over decades. By the time orange roughy is caught and sold, it's often been swimming in ocean toxins for well over 30 to 50 years, and every bite we take brings a concentrated dose of that toxic history into our bodies, which becomes a much bigger concern as we age. You may be wondering if this fish is so toxic. Why is it still being sold? The truth is, orange roughy is often marketed as a healthy white fish. It's low in fat, has a delicate texture, and doesn't taste too fishy. For these reasons, it's been popular on restaurant menus and in grocery stores for decades, especially among people looking for lighter protein options. But the health risks far outweigh the benefits. Let's look at the science in a study conducted by environmental researchers in New Zealand and Australia, where most orange roughy is caught. Scientists tested fish ranging from 1 year to over 130 years old. The results showed high levels of mercury in nearly all specimens, along with traces of cadmium and lead, both known to affect kidney health, bone strength, and cognitive function. These heavy metals don't just pass through the body quickly. They tend to accumulate in fat and organs, where they may quietly trigger chronic inflammation, a key driver behind arthritis, memory loss, heart disease, and even some cancers. What's especially alarming is that orange roughy is often considered a safe choice by people trying to avoid fattier fish, but what's being overlooked is its long lifespan and feeding habits. It consumes small marine organisms that have already absorbed pollution, which magnifies the contamination, and the problems don't stop at health. Orange roughy is also one of the most overfished species in the world because they reproduce very slowly. They don't even reach maturity until around 30 years of age. Orange roughy populations have been devastated by industrial fishing. The fish are often caught by deep-sea trolling, which damages fragile ocean ecosystems and destroys habitats that take centuries to recover. Let's recap why orange roughy should be avoided. Extremely long lifespan leading to high levels of mercury, lead, cadmium, and arsenic linked to kidney damage, bone loss, heart issues, and memory decline. Often mislabeled as a healthy white fish, despite its toxic load caught through unsustainable practices that harm marine ecosystems, especially harmful for older adults due to slower detoxification and higher sensitivity to toxins. At this stage of life, your choices matter more than ever, not just for your health, but for the world we leave behind. Choosing to avoid orange roughy means choosing fewer toxins for your body and more care for the oceans. Coming up next, a predator that lives at the very top of the ocean's food chain and brings with it some of the highest levels of mercury ever recorded in fish. Let's talk about shark and why it's best left off your plate. 6. Shark. Now, it's not a common everyday meal for most people, but shark meat does show up in certain restaurants, seafood markets, and even as ingredients in processed fish products. Some adventurous eaters see it as exotic, while others may try it on vacation without thinking twice. But here's the reality: eating shark meat can be very harmful to your health, especially if you're over 60. Just like swordfish and king mackerel, shark is a top predator in the ocean. It lives long, grows large, and eats smaller fish its entire life, and just like those other big fish, it bioaccumulates toxins, meaning it collects everything those smaller fish had inside them, multiplied over years or even decades. The biggest concern with Shark is mercury, particularly methyl. Mercury, a form that's easily absorbed by the human body and difficult to eliminate. In fact, some shark species have mercury levels so high that a single serving can exceed the safe weekly limit for older adults. For someone in their 60s or 70s, mercury exposure can affect brain function, coordination, memory, and mood. Some studies have linked mercury levels from shark and similar fish to tremors, sleep issues, slower thinking, and even symptoms that mimic early dementia. But mercury isn't the only threat shark meat has also been found to contain PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, and dioxins, toxic chemicals that have been banned in the United States for decades but still persist in our oceans. These substances can damage the immune system, disrupt hormones, and may even contribute to certain types of cancer. And while the health impact is already enough reason to avoid eating shark, there's also the environmental concerns. Sharks play a critical role in marine ecosystems. They help control populations of other species and keep the food chain in balance. But over the past few decades, shark populations have dropped dramatically due to overfishing, in often for their fins, but also for their meat. By choosing not to eat shark, you're not just protecting your body, and you're helping protect an entire ocean ecosystem. And that's a powerful way to make a difference, one meal at a time. Let's summarize why shark is a fish to avoid: extremely high mercury levels, which can harm brain health and nervous system function; contains industrial pollutants like PCBs and dioxins, linked to memory loss, tremors, and hormone disruption. Shark meat may appear in some dishes under other names, especially in processed seafood. Overfishing of sharks is causing severe environmental damage. So if you see shark on a menu or in a seafood product labeled vaguely as fish steak or white fish, it's best to steer clear. There are so many better, safer, and more sustainable choices out there. 7. Tilapia. Finally, we come to a fish that's one of the most commonly eaten in the United States, especially among families looking for an affordable, healthy protein. Tilapia. On the surface, tilapia seems like a safe choice. It's mild and inexpensive and easy to cook. It doesn't have a strong fishy taste, which makes it popular with children and older adults alike. But despite its popularity, tilapia comes with a list of hidden problems, and for people over 60, those problems are especially worth paying attention to. Let's start with what tilapia lacks. Unlike other fish that are rich in omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, sardines, or mackerel, tilapia contains very low amount of omega-3 and much higher amounts of omega-6 fatty acids. While omega-6 is still an essential fat, most Americans already get too much of it from processed foods, vegetable oils, and snacks. The result in imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3 in the body, which promotes inflammation. And as we know, chronic inflammation is linked to nearly every major condition that affects aging: adults, arthritis, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cognitive decline, and even certain cancers. In fact, some researchers have gone as far as to say that eating tilapia is worse than eating bacon, not because of saturated fat, but because of its inflammatory potential. But it's not just the fat content that's concerning. The bigger issue is how tilapia is farmed. The majority of tilapia sold in the U.S. is imported from large-scale fish farms, especially in China, Vietnam, and Indonesia. In many of these farms, the fish are raised in overcrowded, poorly regulated environments where water quality is low, and feed may include cheap fillers like corn, soy, or even animal waste byproducts to prevent disease. In these dense environments, farmers often use antibiotics and chemicals, some of which are banned in the United States. However, weak regulations in the exporting countries mean these substances can remain in the fish by the time they reach your plate. Repeated exposure to antibiotic residues through food can contribute to antibiotic resistance in humans, a growing concern especially for older adults who may already rely on medications, and while the price of tilapia is appealing to long-term health costs may not be worth it. Let's recap why tilapia is a fish to avoid, or at least eat with caution. Contains low omega-3 and high omega-6, promoting inflammation, may worsen conditions like arthritis, heart disease, and insulin resistance, commonly farmed in unregulated environments with questionable feed and water quality, may contain antibiotic residues and banned chemicals, lacks the health benefits of other safer fish options. If you're eating fish for the health of your heart, joints, brain, or immune system, tilapia is unlikely to give you the support you're looking for. In fact, it might quietly be working against you. The good news is there are plenty of better choices, affordable, clean, and genuinely nutritious fish that help fight inflammation, protect the brain, and support healthy aging. We'll explore those in detail in the next video, but for now, by simply avoiding these 7 types of fish, including tilapia, you're already taking a big step toward a longer, stronger, and clearer life. A wiser way forward. We've now gone through 7 types of fish that may look harmless or even healthy, but carry hidden dangers that can affect our bodies, our minds, and even the world around us. These fish may be part of meals we've shared with family, dishes we've enjoyed while traveling, or recipes that once brought us comfort. But the truth is, as we age, our bodies change, and our nutritional choices must change too. What we could once get away with in our 30s or 40s may now carry consequences in our 60s, 7s, and beyond. And here's the key message I hope you'll take away. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. It's about making small, thoughtful adjustments that help you protect your health, preserve your independence, and enjoy more vibrant years ahead. You deserve food that heals, not harms, food that supports your joints, sharpens your memory, and helps your heart keep beating strong. And when you choose wisely, when you choose fish that's clean, low in toxins, and rich in omega-3s, you're giving your body the gift of resilience. In our next video, we'll talk about those positive fish choices, the ones that fight inflammation, improve energy, and support healthy aging from the inside out. But for now, simply remembering and avoiding these 7 fish is a powerful act of self-care, because wisdom doesn't just come with age, it comes with what we choose to do with it. Take care of yourself. You've earned it.